on the line right now, very excited. He's a fan favorite here at WMAL. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West joins us. Hello, Colonel West. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Susan. Brian, how are you all?
Good morning.
We're doing very well. Okay, I want to start off by talking about military matters because the President of the United States has decided to send in an additional 450 troops. We now, as I think I saw a number on last Friday, that will bring it to around 3,500 U.S. troops now in Iraq. It seems that this is a sort of at least from my perspective, I'd love to get your thoughts on it. It seems to be a movement by the administration after the president's pretty much got slammed for admitting that he doesn't really have a strategy with how to deal with Iraq.
No, you're absolutely right, Brian, and 450 additional troops is not a strategy. You know, the fact that we already had 3,000 on the ground and we are not seeing any progress whatsoever. We're seeing an Iraqi military that continues to collapse. We are seeing the advance of ISIS, not just in Iraq, but also in Syria and now even over in Libya. So I think that the additional 450 troops is the facade of doing something when really it is just a Band-Aid over a sucking chest wound. But even worse, the two words that the military people hate to hear, and that's mission creep. That's when you continue to throw troops into a cauldron without any definitive strategic or operational level guidance, and that's exactly what you have happening here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the whole thing about a strategy, what do you think of back to ISIS, why Congress has not really weighed in at all on what the plan should be? Congress is just backed down on putting forward their own AUMF authorization of military force for the president. What do you think of that?
Well, it's very disconcerting because by the Constitution, they have that responsibility, and I think that they're abdicating it. It's kind of like a hot potato that no one wants to contend with, and all being it, ISIS and as well as Russia, China, Iran continue to march on with their own hegemonic objectives and intents, and it's very concerning right now that we don't seem to have any adults in the room when it comes to the number one responsibility of the federal government, which is to protect the United States of America. And we are not providing any trust and confidence toward our allies, and we're emboldening these enemies. So someone needs to sit down and come up with a plan. And I know, having served in the military for 22 years, there are contingency plans for that region that U.S. Central Command has, and I'm quite sure they presented those.
Well, now, look, that's interesting because the chairman of the Joint Chiefs has said, you just need to be patient. Everything will work out. Give us a little time. But I get the impression that they know exactly what needs to be done to solve the situation. It's just that they either can't present it to the president because he doesn't want to hear it, or they've decided that it would be unacceptable to the president, so they don't even bother.
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. First of all, you have a White House that I don't think we've seen this since Lyndon Johnson, picking targets for bombing strikes in Vietnam. They're trying to run combat operations from 1600 Pennsylvania, which they cannot do. They're not providing just strategic guidance. We know that the rules of engagement on our pilots, our combat pilots, is so restrictive that many of them are returning back with their full ordnance loads. 15 to 20 airstrikes a day is below anemic. It is not effective whatsoever. And when you see these pictures of ISIS parading through these cities and doing their operations in broad daylight, with not a cloud in the sky, that tells you that we are not engaging them, and we're not defeating, we're not destroying, we're not degrading whatsoever.
Why is the president even sending over 450 more troops? It just doesn't make any sense, this sort of slow increase that doesn't really get us anywhere. I mean, what do you think the strategy is?
Well, it's not a strategy. First of all, the start of a strategy would be for the president to admit that he got it wrong and not listening to the generals and maintaining a residual force of about 10 to 12,000. He created a vacuum, and therefore Al-Qaeda in Iraq reconstituted as ISIS. And none of his, this degrading and defeat, none of these have been met. So if you want to do that, then he needs to say that I can't be an intransigent ideologue. I can't believe that national security strategy is based upon campaign promises. I have to deal with the reality on the ground and understand that the enemy has a vote. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that it's a stall tactic for the next 18 months, which means that we're going to have an enemy that is even stronger.
All right, so there was an airstrike against an apparent Al-Qaeda leader in Libya. Well, the military believes, the U.S. military believes they did get this guy in an airstrike. This is the guy behind the attack on the gas plant in Algeria in 2013 that killed some 35 hostages, including 3 Americans. But the Islamists in the area say, no, you didn't get that guy. You got some guys who may have been tied to the attack on the consulate in Benghazi. Either way, sounds like we hit somebody that was worth hitting.
Yeah, we hit somebody that's worth hitting, but my concern is that, again, it's not a strategy. A drone strike is not a national security strategy. So now when you look at the spread of the global jihadist movement that extends from Nigeria with Boko Haram all the way over to the Philippines with Abu Sayyaf and all the characters and players in between, where is our definitive strategy of how we're going to use diplomatic pressure, economic pressure, use information operations to defeat their ideology, and then, of course, defeat them militarily? That's what I'm looking for as a strategic level guidance or doctrine, and that's just not there. We can't just continue to throw a drone Hellfire missile here or there and think that we're going to defeat these guys.
Can we change topics?
Yeah, go ahead. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd love to know what you think of Jeb Bush declaring that he is going to run for president.
It's Jeb with an exclamation mark.
Exclamation point 2016. What do you make of it? Do you think he's got a shot, or is he going to just be overtaken by some of these other folks like Governor Walker or Marco Rubio? What do you think?
Well, I will tell you this. I'm glad to see on the Republican side we kind of have a golden corral approach. We have a lot of different people to select from off the menu. Mm-hmm. I think that you have 3 different categories. You have governors, you have senators, and then you have people, from the outside, the Donald Trumps, the Carly Fiorinas, the Dr. Ben Carsons. I really believe that there may be a little bit of an edge toward a governor because they have that executive experience. They've done some things, but then, do you want current governor or do you want a past governor, or how far past governor? Right. So it's going to be interesting to see who can make the case and create a clear delineation for the path that they want to get this country back on to restoring economic liberty and freedom, the Opportunity Society, and definitely our preeminence as a military strength.
I got to ask you about this bizarre case involving the woman in Spokane who says that she was black. Turns out she's not black. She also turns out to be the leader of the local branch of the NAACP. A lot of questions about what's going on there. But do you have any thoughts at all that help bring some clarity to this really bizarre story?
Well, what is so interesting, Brian, is I've been watching people try to explain this away. And now it seems that being black is just a matter of how you feel or your consciousness. So I've decided after watching the NBA Finals last night that I feel that I'm Stephen Curry. And I want to go out and I want to start in game number 6 against the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Hey, why not?
Why not? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, listen, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to have you, Colonel West.
Always mine.
All right. Thank you very much.